You already know what time it is. Welcome back into the NFL with AJL, episode 95. We are live on a Tuesday. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but you're right here tapped in with us on the show. And for that, we are always, eternally, forever grateful. Before we get started on the show tonight, hope y'all have had a blessed week, a great ending to February as March is just around the corner. Y'all please make sure to like and share that stream wherever you may be watching. Subscribe on YouTube as we have been running it up with the YouTube content. The support from you guys has been immaculate. Make sure you hit the bell so you never miss a post. The QR code there on JV's side of the screen, as we do have him back for episode 95 tonight, third straight show having him on. Scan that. It'll be every bit of social media and podcast content at the NFL with AJL, or technically at NFL with AJL. Drop the maybe to get a little more SEO traction on the pages. If you can't find us, you're simply not looking hard enough. As I mentioned, JV is with us on the show tonight. Welcome in. Not that you haven't been here before, man. How have you been since we last chopped it up a couple weeks ago? Got a lot of people buzzing on social about our takes, man.
Nah, I'm loving it. I appreciate you having me back, AJ. I love this rotation we got going on. And I'm pumped. I'm pumped especially for the Jalen Hurts jersey to come in, dude. I'm waiting for it. I love that Super Bowl patch, so I'm hyped, bro.
Yep.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, 100%. I will be getting it. It will be there, and I'll either have it on me, it'll be on the wall. Probably wear it for the fans a couple times because y'all already know that that's arguably my favorite player in the league. Loaded show tonight. We're talking about the Matthew Stafford potential trade to the New York Giants. Is Travis Kelce potentially retiring? The Chiefs want an answer on him by the time free agency starts. A would you rather 2024 Eagles Super Bowl champs edition versus the last 12 Super Bowl champions, and the Saints coaching updates, and much more to come here on the show. So we'll go ahead and jump right into the top of the lineup here, as we do have rumors of the New York Giants wanting Matthew Stafford in a trade, and the Rams are saying no problem. Absolutely no problem at all. Only thing we want from you, New York, is that third overall pick. And, you know, you guys saw the short that I put out. I don't know if this would be a great move for Matthew Stafford, being a future Hall of Fame quarterback. He was already, saved by a team in the Rams from what was an awful franchise at the time in the Detroit Lions, and now going to potentially one of the worst teams in the NFL today. But let me know, JV, do you think that LA and New York will actually make this happen? I feel like nothing is impossible in terms of trades in the NFL nowadays. Tell me what you think of this, bro.
Yeah, so the NBA, I don't know how much you follow, AJ, but there were some massive deals that were done, I guess, this season, and trading stars around. And like in my eyes, I guess anything and everything's on the table in these leagues, especially with the stars. As far as Matthew Stafford goes, listen, Matthew Stafford is a legit quarterback. My eyes, he's top 10. I know he's aging. I know he's getting older, but he's still got that juice in him. He was 6 points away from making the conference championship and probably would have gone to the Super Bowl. I don't think Washington was ready. So when you look at it from that aspect, it's like, how many quarterbacks in the league are Super Bowl ready, are ready to elevate your team to a Super Bowl? I don't think Matthew Stafford could do it for Carolina. I don't think he could do it for New York. And I agreed with what you were saying about it. Like, you can bring Matthew Stafford in, but he's not that. Like, he's not Josh Allen yet, or not anymore, at least. He's not Josh Allen. He's not Lamar. He's not that's not the player he is anymore. He needs a little bit of structure around him. But if you give him that, pardon me, like he had in LA with the Super Bowl run, like we just saw this previous season, he's got it. I don't think he goes to New York. It's very, very difficult for me to see that happen, especially for Stafford. Like you said, I feel like he'd be compromised. I wouldn't think a future guy who's probably ending up in the Hall of Fame, or is at least, in contention for it, I don't think he wants to go to New York. The thing is if I'm Stafford, if I'm any team in the league that is in need of a quarterback, considering the weak quarterback draft class, I'm paying Stafford the bag. I am paying Stafford the bag. I don't care. 2 years, $50 million. Dak's making it. Trevor Lawrence is making it. Tua's making it. Stafford can win you a Super Bowl. And if your team is in win now mode, Pittsburgh could win right now with a good quarterback. LA could win right now with a good quarterback. I don't know why you pass that up if you have a chance at a Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm. Very good points there, man. Yeah, it would be really crazy to see this trade happen. I feel like we're in the point of the season now to where, would this star player go to this bad team? Where, we had the Trevor Lawrence to the Steelers type of talk, and then, they vehemently shut it down and they said that it was never going to be a thing. I think that if the Giants are desperate enough in this situation, because we know about Brian Daboll, we know about Joe Shane, the head coach and the general manager, respectively, they're in their final season more than likely. I think they should have been let go maybe last year or the year before. You see that they go 4-13 this year. And really, no matter what happens this year, they're kind of in a bad situation, for their coaching outlook because, like, the roster's very bare. You're more than likely not going to be a good or even great or even average football team this year, but your job is on the line no matter what happens. So I think if they are desperate enough to keep their jobs intact in that aspect, they would do it. This, is the same regime also that did pay Daniel Jones over Saquon Barkley, and we saw clearly how that played out. Saquon Barkley just won a Super Bowl and Offensive Player of the Year and, could have had an amazing Super Bowl as well. We know how the Chiefs shut him down. And Daniel Jones is no longer on the roster, got grossly overpaid for having one decent season, being able to rush the ball some, and Brian Daboll really getting the best out of him, but it really feels like anything is possible after Brady leaving New England, after Russ leaving the Seahawks, after we see Matthew Stafford leave the Detroit Lions and kind of a blockbuster deal that nobody expects to happen. It just comes out of nowhere. So, we could see it happening, but I don't realistically see this type of thing happening. And, Stafford, 37 years old, he's going into that final year of his 4-year extension after he signed after winning the Super Bowl. The Rams did give him permission to seek trades to other teams, actually gave his agent permission to look at other teams, but Stafford himself hasn't requested a trade specifically. Staff is almost a $50 million cap hit for 2025, but the Rams can save about 23 to 27 million, depending on when they trade or cut him. And this is what a lot of people in the NFL don't remember. When you trade for a player, you're not only trading for that player, you're trading for that contract. And if you are willing, like you said, you made a good point. If you're willing to bring him in, pay him 2 years, 50 million, maybe bring him on a 1-year, not veteran deal, but pay him some money to where he can jump in and be a solid deliverer of the football, be someone who reads the offense well, be someone who leads the locker room well. He doesn't have a no trade clause, so his hands really could be tied on that aspect in terms of where he goes next. But like we said, New York should really be the last place that Stafford goes. When you look at the O-line, when you look at the roster offensively and defensively, it's very tough over there in New York. And, it's just hilarious to think that the same team that made two big mistakes, not only paying Daniel Jones, but letting Saquon Barkley go, could really give away a third overall pick for an aging quarterback. Yes, he still can be great in some aspects. I don't know if Stafford is really on that elite level anymore, but we've seen him have some of these injury problems over the last couple of years, especially with the Super Bowl hangover, and years after that, it did look pretty rough. And yes, the quarterback class might not be necessarily strong, but I think when you're talking about standing pat at 3, you could possibly get more value in that third pick, using it in the draft and maybe trading for Stafford. But again, if these guys are desperate enough when they're possibly a Thanksgiving loss or a Thanksgiving breakaway, from getting fired in 2025, it's going to be something tough to see, no question about it. If you had to pick a couple of teams, I know you named some there, and maybe you can reiterate them for us. Any other trade suitors for Matt Stafford outside of the New York Giants?
We kind of went over, I think, AJ, maybe last week or the week before. We were kind of talking about, maybe it was with Rodgers, and the team's kind of in need of a quarterback right now. I see it similar to the Rodgers situation. I think Stafford right now is not comparable to Rodgers. He's a better player, better leader, better character to have in the locker room. But they have similar situations in that they're older. They should be placed in locker rooms that are looking to win right now because their talent is going to diminish in a year or two. Stafford's got maybe a year or two left on the elite scale, I think. He's getting older. He's also injury prone, which you have to factor in. I'm pretty sure he was healthy for most of this season, but that's besides the fact. Like I said, I think Pittsburgh is a legit place where any quarterback could go right now and find immediate success because you know how Tomlin will operate. He will get you into the playoffs. He will do what he needs to do to get you into January and possibly February playing football.
Yeah.
But they need some more star power. They need another guy offensively. They need a quarterback to come in and to expand the offense. I mean, this year Russ was nice, but it was pretty much just the fade to George Pickens, and that was about it offensively. Once that was stopped, the whole offense kind of got halted. I think if you bring Matthew Stafford in there, it's a little bit of a better fit. You have a veteran guy. Maybe give him another weapon to work with. Who knows? But I do think, AJ, the prime landing spot for him is back home in LA. That's the best spot I see for Matthew Stafford. They can still do damage in the playoffs if they go out and build a slightly better roster. Maybe lose Cooper Kupp and get him another weapon, do a few small things in free agency, and you're right back in it, possibly contending for an NFC championship and even a Super Bowl.
Yeah, very good points there. I would like to see him stay with the Rams, no doubt, because I just think that would be the best place for him to ride it out. And it doesn't really seem like McVay would be open to another quarterback coming into the building. I don't know, maybe that's just me, but I don't really see that shaking out well with a coach with an elk like Sean McVay. Along with Pittsburgh, because I think that's really the only viable place there to to actually be able to send him, because you do have some decent talent, you do have a decent defense, or really a great defense, and then you do have a very solid coach in Mike Tomlin, even though he can really be a polarizing factor for many people around the league. Outside of that, I mean, maybe the Raiders, for the sole fact of Brock Bowers, and you do have a Pete Carroll, and you do have a Chip Kelly, a couple of guys who have made good names and good waves for themselves in the NFL offseason. Of course, Brock Bowers has been there since he was drafted in last year's NFL draft by the Las Vegas Raiders. And when you look at other teams like maybe the Titans, no, they have the number 1 overall pick. They're going to pick a quarterback. The Browns, news just broke that Nick Chubb's trying to get out of there. Deshaun Watson's more than likely going to be out of there, and nobody really wants to go. Myles Garrett requested a trade. So like the good players from the Browns are already wanting to get out. So I think outside of the Raiders and the Steelers, I really don't know what other teams could be in the mix for Stafford. He's not going to go to the Jets, and every other team out there has a quarterback. I mean, even some of the lower ones, like the Panthers have Bryce Young, the Jaguars have Trevor Lawrence, and in some of the other teams that need a quarterback, they're either going to be the Raiders or the Steelers that are in play for it. Maybe the Saints could go out there and grab Matt Stafford, but I don't really see that happening. I think we kind of already have somebody in the building, whether it's Derek Carr, Spencer Rattler, that could, come in and make it happen. So I think outside of Vegas or Pittsburgh, unless he stays home in LA, I don't see any other teams around the league that Stafford could really go to. If Stafford were to move on from the Rams, do you have any quarterbacks that could jump into that offense with Sean McVay, Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams, and really be the replacement for Matt Stafford?
I'm thinking right now, just off the top of my head, I was seeing rumors about Rodgers, I think, kind of
Yeah.
switching roles and kind of filling in. I don't know. Like I think Rodgers still has a little juice left in the tank. I won't deny that. Like he had overall statistically a decent season in New York for being like 40 years old coming off an ACL. But man, like it's tough for me to think that there's a better replacement or even someone equivalent to Matthew Stafford. Like I said,
Right.
in my
Right.
eyes, clearly Matthew Stafford is a top 10 guy. I don't really know with the Super Bowl, with the way he's played in the playoffs recently, how you can put a few guys that are kind of lingering around that top 10 range over him, and they're not available. Like you just said, the top 12, top 15 guys in the league are under contract with their teams. Maybe somebody like Sam Darnold is maybe the best fit after Stafford. That's the only guy that is immediately popping into my mind right now that I know is up for a contract this year, and they could probably get him at a more affordable rate. But honestly,
Yeah.
AJ, I thought maybe Las Vegas would be a better fit for Darnold next year. Kind of get him started new with Vegas, Pete Carroll, give him $30 million over the 3 years, like they did with Baker, and ride it out with Stafford.
Yeah. Yeah. If we're looking at some replacements for Matthew Stafford with the LA Rams, I think the first one, like you said, is Aaron Rodgers. I, think he does kind of mimic the game of Stafford. I think we would all sit here and agree that Matthew Stafford is a better quarterback than A-Rod, but he can spin the ball well, might not be the greatest locker room presence, but he is a veteran. He is a multiple-time MVP. He is a gentleman who's been to a Super Bowl and won one, the only one he's been to, just like Matt Stafford. I would say possibly Kirk Cousins as well. Feels like a guy that could be similar to Stafford. Obviously, he did get hurt in week 10 last year versus the Saints, comes out on record and says that, and kind of puts the Falcons up for grabs in terms of potential discipline or draft picks. But when you talk about a solid deliverer of the football, a good locker room presence in Kirk Cousins, I feel like a guy who could really gel with Sean McVay and just plug into that offense. Sam Darnold as well is a good one to mention. Now, we know how he looked in the last couple of games between the final game of the season against the Lions and then ironically against the Rams, getting blown out in both of those games. Cost himself a lot of money, probably, dwindled the confidence not only in himself, but in the league a little bit to wonder, does this guy really have it? Or was it the fact of Kevin O'Connell being an elite coach and Justin Jefferson being one of the best wide receivers we've seen in terms of yards in total over a 5-year stretch, which is clearly saying a lot. Couple of other things here that could happen. I don't know if Russell Wilson is possibly piquing anybody's interest on their radar, but he could be a quarterback that if he is not with the Steelers, because we don't really know what's going to happen in that aspect, I could see him jumping into this offense with Sean McVay, Puka Nacua. Kyron Williams as well, some other of the solid players that they have. We know the defense is young as well for the Rams, so it would be a nice supporting cast for any quarterback that landed there. I feel like I see the best fits really between Kirk and possibly Wilson, because veterans, they can win you games. Yes, they might not be elite like Stafford can be at certain times, but I don't think they're going to go out there and lose you football games. I think we got to ask the question too, could the LA Rams move even higher in the NFL draft and snag a young quarterback, barring that Matthew Stafford's traded away? Yes, at the number 3 pick, they do have all the chance in the world, because there's been talks about possibly Abdul Carter or Mason Graham going in the top 2, top 3 of the draft, which if that means a Cam Ward, a Shadur Sanders, maybe some of these other quarterbacks. I don't think a Jackson Dart is going to go that high in this draft, but it wouldn't shock me, because we saw the LA Rams for quite a few years go without a first-round pick because of how much they wanted to trade it, how much they wanted to move back in the draft, receive these other picks, and you can't really blame them, right? And I wouldn't take that off of the table for the LA Rams to move even higher in the NFL draft and snag a young quarterback. So I would say possibly A-Rod, Kirk Cousins, Sam Darnold, or Russell Wilson if they don't decide to make that draft move and go get another quarterback. Y'all get in the chat, get in the comments, so let us know what you think. Make sure to like and share the stream also as you're watching. Let us know what you think of the Matthew Stafford to the New York Giants potential trade. What would this be for his career? Do you even think this would actually happen? Answer some of the questions we're debating here down in the comments. Travis Kelce should possibly retire. Said nobody ever, I feel like, that actually knows the game of football compared to what's happened the last couple of years with Travis Kelce, with Matt Nagy as the offensive coordinator. But that doesn't mean that the Chiefs don't want an answer on Travis Kelce by March 14th, which is the start of free agency. So I'll ask you the question, JV. Do you think Travis Kelce should consider retirement, seeing how the last couple of seasons have went, which one of those includes a Super Bowl win? And let's not forget, they were off back-to-back Super Bowls before getting blasted by the Eagles in Super Bowl 59.
Right. Yeah. You conveniently send this topic to me, I think like a day before I saw news about Kelce will probably come back for the Chiefs, which was kind of fitting perfectly. I don't think he should retire. I mean, look, I'm never going to say a player should or shouldn't. Like, it's tough because I'm not playing. I'm not in their situation. It's tough to hang up the cleats, especially when you've played the game so long. Travis Kelce is still dominating, right? Even though statistically he has taken a step back and maybe the crown has been passed on to a guy like Brock Bowers, Travis Kelce is still producing like a top 3, top 5 tight end in the league. I don't know why that would justify Travis Kelce needing to retire. He's still a very, very good, solid threat for the Chiefs. He's an asset come playoff time. He's a savvy veteran, knows where to be, knows how to find Mahomes in the playoffs. That's what really matters to me. If he comes back, the agenda or narrative that he's even somewhat of a liability is crazy. It's crazy to me. He hasn't fallen off to the point where it's like he's a liability. You know what I mean? Like, he is still a legit option in the league. Even if he's a top 5 tight end, like, yes, I would rather have Travis Kelce after his prime, but still in peak form over some guys who are below him. So should he retire? Probably not. If he wants to, go ahead. He's had a legendary career. He's going straight to Canton, but he doesn't need to. He's still performing at a high level. And if he wants to, he could probably cruise out with another Super Bowl if he hung around a few more years.
Yeah, couldn't agree more with you, man. In terms of Kelce considering retirement, I don't really think that's on the table for him. I was on a show last week, Stuff About Sports. Shout out Jerem Burr, everybody over there at the Give Us a Shot Network. We were talking about, Travis Kelce should consider retirement. And I was like, no, I don't think so. I think that's foul to say, because when you look at the fact that Matt Nagy has been his offensive coordinator the last couple of years, let's not forget that he did just win a Super Bowl year before last, and the year before that as well was 16 yards exactly. He had 984 yards in 2023 and 5 touchdowns. He was 16 yards away from logging the 8th consecutive 1,000-yard receiving season for a tight end, which is already an NFL record at 7 years, so he would have made it 8 years. We saw him in the first half of that Super Bowl. Things kind of weren't going that well. He gets in the face of Andy Reid, makes the news, makes the social media posts, makes the memes about, how it was kind of disrespectful for him to approach his coach like that. comes out in the second half of that Super Bowl and absolutely produces, absolutely delivers. And, the Chiefs being 15-2 this year, people did talk about them being one of the worst 15-2 teams, maybe in NFL history. And yes, the eye test potentially at times from Travis Kelce did show you that he was slowing down. Maybe he wasn't as sharp on his routes. He wasn't as productive in certain games, but still 823 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's a good workload from a tight end in today's league. I feel like we're so spoiled by Travis Kelce's 2018 season of 1,300 yards receiving and 10 touchdowns. You go to 2020 with 1,400 yards receiving and 11 touchdowns. 2022, another 1,300 yards receiving and 12 touchdowns. He's one of the best tight ends in NFL history for a reason, because he was able to do that. When we talk about the Rob Gronkowskis, when we talk about the Kellen Winslows, the Antonio Gates, the Shannon Sharps, the Jimmy Grahams of the world that have been so legendary at the position, I personally believe if you eclipse 800 yards and maybe 3 or 4 touchdowns as a tight end, like, you've done your job, because we see the tight end position getting worked more and more into the offense, into the league. And I love to see it, because I like seeing these athletic tight ends out here. We really see what Brock Bowers has been able to do and what Dawson Knox has become, and, what we're kind of waiting for Kyle Pitts to become, if he can become more of a consistent player. So I don't think it's time for him to retire. I do think it's crazy as well, like you said, that some people are saying that this guy could be a liability, because we are still talking about arguably the best tight end in NFL history. And I'll go on and say he might be 35 right now. I think he's got another, 2 to 3 years at the most of elite production, but I would say at least another 1 to 2. And if he rides off in the sunset with another Super Bowl, I'm definitely not shocked, because that's what he's capable of. And that's what he could absolutely do. Steve, what's going on, man? It's good to see you in the live chat. You are like the most faithful YouTube commenter. I think you're literally like, you have the most hearted comments from me on YouTube, man. You're always commenting on the post, so I really appreciate it. I'm thinking that McVay wants a quarterback who can scramble, and they have a good one in Stetson Bennett. I really, and me being a Georgia fan, y'all already know I love Stetson Bennett a lot. He was able to do what no quarterback could do, and that was win us not only a national championship since 1980, but back-to-back national championships as well. Made plenty of, big plays, great plays in those, SEC championships and national championship games. Now, we did see him get drafted late, of course, because apparently Stetson Bennett had a little bit of a drinking problem. I don't want to, speculate that too much. And apparently his production in some of the camps and some of the practices wasn't too great. Could Stetson be that guy? Absolutely, but he has to get more reps. And I think more than anything, the coaches have to know, like, and trust in his abilities in order for him to really be able to produce. What's wrong with Matt? He signed a contract and he should honor it. There's nothing wrong with him. You might have jumped in a little late on the segment. The Giants are looking to potentially trade him for the 3rd overall pick. That's what the Rams want. The Rams are like, if you want our quarterback, then just give us that 3rd overall pick. His agent has given him, the Rams have given his agent and his team permission to seek other teams, but Stafford himself, he hasn't requested a trade, and he has a no trade clause. So we'll kind of see how that plays out. Well, I think we kind of answered this, but how much longer did you think Travis had left in the NFL? Or maybe you were talking about, I think it was Stafford that you were mentioning. So how much longer do you see Kelce, you think, man, performing at a good level in the NFL?
Yeah, okay. So I might contradict myself a little here now. He is deteriorating. Like, you can see the slow decline in performance. It's not what it was 3 years ago. But like you said, AJ, like, I was checking on the laptop over here. He's still top 5 in almost every important tight end category besides touchdowns. And that will just fluctuate year to year, depending on the scheme, depending on the red zone targets. He's getting targeted like 130 times a year. He almost had 100 receptions this year, eclipsed 800 yards. He was doing his job, like you said, AJ. How much longer do we see Travis Kelce at elite production levels? Maybe give it a year or two. But I still think he has that juice left in the tank, like Stafford does, right? These older guys, like you see a guy like LeBron do in the NBA, right? He doesn't necessarily need to be the superstar he once was when he was younger. His knowledge and understanding of the game will carry him a lot further than these younger guys, and that's where he that's where he can equal some of those guys who eclipse him in talent now, right? I think Travis Kelce, as a player, is maturing. He kind of understands the game a lot more than he might have when he was younger. And you can just see that in his game. He's always in the right spot for Mahomes, and that's what makes him so dangerous. So as far as elite athletic production, maybe that's over. Maybe he's got one more year, but the mind, the knowledge, the understanding of the game and the concepts, that will never go away. And as long as he's got that, he can still be productive over the next 1 to 2 years. Definitely, maybe
Yeah,
even 3.
couldn't agree more with you, man. I'd say 3 more years max is what he's got. 1 to 2 possibly more elite seasons in him, or at least tops of production. And I don't know if people remember just a few years ago, if he would have qualified as a wide receiver, he would have been like 3rd or 4th in the league in receiving yards as a tight end. It's been since 2018, since Travis Kelce hasn't had less than 90 catches since 2018. He did it in 18, 19, 20. 21, 2, 3, and 4. So that's 7 straight seasons right there of 90 plus catches, 103 in 2018, 105 in 2020. And we know he's getting, well over 100 targets every year. So this guy is still respected and feared by many defenses. And just because he might have not come out and looked super great in the Super Bowl or even good, doesn't mean that he's not one of those guys that harbors respect and really puts the fear in defenses. Steve, I really appreciate all the comments, man. You're one of my favorite guys to be able to interact with. Would you rather have the 2024 Philadelphia Eagles, who just won the Super Bowl, or would you take these last 12 Super Bowl champions in the NFL? First team up, 2022, 2023 Chiefs without Tyreek Hill, this team that went back-to-back.
I would take Philly this year.
I would take Philly as well. I think just when you look at, you kind of wonder, okay, how is this Philly team different from them, especially if they lost to him in 22? Well, there wasn't Saquon. There wasn't Big Fangio. And people can say what they want about Kellen Moore, but he was in his bag in the NFC Championship game and in the Super Bowl. 145 points scored in a postseason. You got to give a look to the offensive coordinator because Nick Sirianni wasn't calling plays. We'll just leave it at that. The 2021 Rams with Matthew Stafford or the 2024 Eagles? I would take Philly as well. The 2020 Bucks with Tom Brady or the 2024 Eagles? I would take the Bucks as well. I got to give respect to the GOAT for what he did in that 2020 season. And, after they came out of the bye week, they didn't lose a game. They had the most turnovers in the playoffs that year. And yes, they might have faced a Patrick Mahomes without an offensive line, but damn it, they dominated. And they made Patrick Mahomes look like he had a kryptonite. And clearly it was. He lost to Brady the only time that matched up in the playoffs, both in the AFC Championship game and when he was in the NFC and was in the Super Bowl. The 2019 Chiefs with Tyreek Hill that won their first Super Bowl versus the 49ers or the 2024 Eagles?
I thought the Chiefs were way more lethal here.
I will take the Eagles here because of that defense. And we know the defense with San Francisco that year was solid too. We did see Richard Sherman get absolutely tore out of the frame as a corner, and it was really one of his last seasons, I think, if not his last season in the league before he went and joined broadcasting. It'll be a close one, but I'll take the 2024 Eagles. When you just talk about the dominance of what they were able to do throughout this playoff run, it's going to be hard unless you're looking at a team like the Bucks, and Brady really gives you a lot of that nod, from 2020. But I'll take the Eagles here. Fifth team, the 2014, 16, and 18 New England Patriots that won 3 Super Bowls in 5 years that had that core of Tom Brady, Gronk, and Edelman. Or would you take the 2024 Eagles? This was also the 28-3 squad.
Yeah, I think it's kind of difficult. Like each year they showed something different. I'd take the Patriots. Yeah, I'd take the Patriots. I don't want to bet against Brady. I don't want to bet against Bill. Their defenses were also outstanding, but Philly would give them a very good game.
Yes, they would. I'm going to go this Patriots dynasty as well because this was the Patriots. 2018, you had Stephon Gilmore. 14, 16, and 18, you still had Patrick Chung, Devin McCourty. You had a Dante Hightower. You had a Kyle Van Noy. You had a Chris Long that came in. So this era of the Patriots was very special. The 2017 Eagles that won their first Super Bowl with Nick Foles, or the 2024 Eagles who just had Super Bowl MVP Jalen Hurts?
2024 Eagles.
Yeah,
and
it's not close at all. That's the scary part, is this team beat a Tom Brady Patriots back in 2017, and they just got insanely, exponentially better, and they blow out a legend in Patrick Mahomes. The 2015 Broncos with Peyton Manning or the 2024 Eagles? I would take the Eagles as well. We see this same Broncos team a couple years before get absolutely obliterated by the Legion of Boom. And also this Broncos team, this was when Peyton Manning got benched a little bit in the season before he actually came back, was able to play okay in the Super Bowl. Von Miller, clearly Super Bowl MVP. That explains everything you need to know about what that defense was able to do. The 2013 Seahawks with the Legion of Boom or the 2024 Eagles?
This is the closest one that you had given me, AJ, in my opinion. Oh my! It's so close. If it were up to me, I'd go. Honestly, my honest answer, I'd go 50-50. If I had to lean one way, I'd go Legion of Boom just out of
Yeah.
respect right now, but that could either way, I wouldn't be disappointed if you took Eagles or if you took
Right.
Seahawks.
I'm going to take the Seahawks as well. The fact that Legion of Boom absolutely obliterated Peyton Manning. It was literally the number one offense versus the number one defense, and we saw what the number one defense did. We know that offense for Philadelphia was great, and we know that it was the youngest defense to ever win a Super Bowl. Average age of 26. Vic Fangio now takes over as the best defensive coordinator in the league. But we got to give respect to that legendary team in the Legion of Boom. I mean, them just blowing Peyton Manning off of the map at that point. And that Broncos team that was so elite, I got to give the nod to the Legion of Boom. The 2012 Ravens with Ray Lewis's last year, or the 2024 Eagles?
I would go
the
Eagles
here as well, man. No question about it. That Ravens team was solid, but I think when you look at the overall talent that Eagles team had, it's a wipe far and away. The 2011 Giants that beat Brady a second time in the Super Bowl rematch, or the 2024 Eagles?
I mean, it was an elite part of history. I'd still go Philadelphia.
Too. I just think they were head, shoulders, knees, and toes more explosive and just way more loaded on both sides of the roster. The 2010 Packers with Aaron Rodgers' only Super Bowl win, or the 2024 Eagles? I'm rolling Philly as well. All right, man. The 2009 Saints, or the 2024 Eagles?
Yeah, this is funny too. I searched up the stats for this season just because just in case I got any backlash. And you were like, no, this, I will take Philly. But listen, AJ, before I, leave and get things going, I've appreciated Drew Brees so much over these last few months, to be honest with you, just because I've seen what New Orleans has been since he left.
Yeah.
And, it's like, dude, Drew Brees, I know he was kind of trapped underneath a lot of other great quarterbacks, the Mannings, the Bradys, but the fact he got a Super Bowl, the fact he did that for New Orleans was absolutely incredible. And that alone should have elevated him into the Hall of Fame, if not all the other passing statistics he has done. And I'm pretty sure leads.
No doubt. Brady had to play 3 extra years in order to get this one. I can't bet against the best team I've ever seen for my Saints, man. So I'm going to take the 09 Saints. But in reality, the spirit of that team, knowing that they were just 3 years back into playing in the Superdome, the franchise being invigorated just a few years before, going 13-0, just like the Colts did, then losing their last 3 games of the regular season. They were the only team in NFL history to lose their last 3 games of the regular season and go on and win the Super Bowl. An amazing interception on Brett Favre. Y'all can say what you want about Bountygate. I totally get it. Hoorah, right? The pick 6 from Tracy Porter on Peyton Manning. I mean, the Saints were down 10-3 at that halftime. You also see, the entire world thought the Colts were going to win, and rightfully so. We were talking about a legend in the Sheriff, who is Peyton Manning. It would be a great matchup to watch today. The league is pretty different from then to now, but I would take my 2009 New Orleans Saints. It's very hard for me not to, over the 2024 Philadelphia Eagles. Before I let you get out of here, JV, please plug yourself. Let people know where we can find you, and of course, you'll be appearing on the post with me as well.
I love it. AJ, thanks for having me. You guys can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and now YouTube at The JV Show. We got a great offseason coming. Me, AJ, I appreciate you guys all, and we're getting to work.
Yes,
so stay tuned.
100%. Appreciate you so much for jumping in, JV. It's always a blessing. This will not be the last time. We'll have some of those segments pushed out for you guys on YouTube in the coming week, and have a good one, man. I'll catch you soon. See you, bro. This is episode 95 of the NFL with AJL. I greatly appreciate everybody jumping into the show tonight. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but you're right here tapped in with me. And for that, as always, we are eternally grateful. Please make sure to like and share that stream wherever you may be watching. Subscribe on YouTube. Hit the bell so you never miss a post. The traction that you've been giving us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok has been great. The likes, the comments, the shares, the followers coming in, the watch time has been the best we've seen in a while. Trying to get more consistent. We are getting more consistent for you guys. So y'all actually watching, reciprocating, paying attention to the content, it really does mean everything. As always, the QR code there in the corner of the screen will give you every bit of social media and podcast content. If you can't find us, you're simply not looking hard enough. And as always, this show is sponsored by Buy and Sell with AJL for all your worldwide professional real estate needs. Whether you're looking to buy a home, sell a home, or invest in real estate, this is the team that you need to be working with. You can get on their monthly neighborhood market reports. You can get on their monthly newsletter. You can also check out their real estate meetup that they just started running a few months back in September. If you're looking to land your first or next real estate deal, connect with a lot of high-level professionals or anything in between, the South Atlanta Real Estate Meetup, ran by a buy and sell with AJL, is the place you need to tap into for all of your real estate endeavors. I wanted to get into a lot of Saints news here. Really why I had JV pop out, so I could really be a homer and be as biased for y'all as possible. You know, I try to be unbiased when it comes to the team, but I'm still taking the 2009 Saints over the 2024 Eagles, baby. You can't convince me otherwise, and I will not let you do it. I know it was a few weeks ago, 2 weeks ago on Thursday, that Kellen Moore actually had his opening press conference with the New Orleans Saints, and I was listening in real time, taking some notes down. So I just wanted to be able to reiterate to you guys what I heard, what I thought was great, and overall what I really think he's going to be able to bring to this team. First thing he said when he got in there is he wanted to create an environment to be their best for the players, coaches, and staff. That's one of the best things you can start off a press conference with, you know, because it is about just more than the players. It is about more than the coaches. That's why you guys saw me talking about TJ Pagnetti, Ted Rath, you know, Doug Nussmeier being the quarterback's coach, and now all of those guys from the Eagles coming over and serving roles for us. Your staff is everything. Coaching is everything, but the staff that is behind your coaching and then the players that are in front of your coaching really matter. So I loved how he came out of the top and said that. He's wanted to be a coach since he was a kid, which showed that he's got that fight in him. He's got that grit to actually be a coach in this league. We know that he coached top offenses. He was with Dallas. He was with the Chargers, was with Philadelphia and won it all. And now we have a Super Bowl winning offensive coordinator who just spearheaded the #1 offense in postseason history with 145 points. He said he chose here because of the leadership. He loves the fans. He loves the home field. He said with every interaction, he grew more confident about choosing this team. He said he was honored to work with Mickey Loomis. Don't know why. And company as well. He said, and you know, to me, that says a lot coming from an elite organization in Philadelphia with Howie Roseman, with Nick Sirianni. I love how he paid homage to the fans. I loved how he paid homage to the Dome because we know, right? Like Kellen Moore chose us when nobody else wanted to choose us. We still love Jameis Winston for the 5-2, 5-3 run that he had with Sean Payton before he tore his ACL against the Bucs and was never the same. If you choose us and embrace us, you don't even necessarily have to win a lot with us. If you appreciate us, we appreciate you. And I loved how he came out and made that one of his second points in the opening presser. He called Derek Carr a premier player, and he said he can't wait to get to work with him, said he was a tremendous quarterback and they're blessed to have him. But he did also say that they will go through a process to build the team. So some people were saying that Derek Carr is going to be his quarterback. Some people were saying that, you know, oh no, Derek Carr is going to get out of town. You know, clearly he's pretty non-committal right now. And listen to what he's saying. He can't wait to get to work with them. He's going to go through the process to build a team. He said everything will go through a process, being able to have one-on-ones with these players, getting to understand what their expectations are, getting to know their superpowers and their characteristics as not only a player, but just a human being as well. We could go through a process and figure out that Derek Carr is not the guy. Y'all already know how I feel about Derek Carr. I don't personally believe he is the guy whatsoever. When you look at the mobile quarterbacks that have been under Kellen Moore for multiple years, I don't believe that shakes out well in Derek Carr's favor. And I believe that opens the door some for Spencer Rattler. Miss Benson, before she even let Ellen Moa, as she liked to call him, take the stand, she said that he has her full commitment to do whatever it takes to deliver another Super Bowl win. And the fans love to hear that. We want to hear the endorsement from the owner. Didn't really hear the same sentiments like that from Mickey Loomis, but I think Mick knows his place at this point in the franchise. I think we're on two different pages of where he's at and where we're at with Mick, but either way, loved hearing the owners say that. And, you know, he got to work immediately after the Super Bowl parade. We're going to talk about some of the coaches that the Saints did hire here recently, you know, Doug Nussmeier, Ted Rath, TJ Pagnetti, Kyle Wilbur as well. So he's got a lot of his staffers already coming in, and he's not waiting around. He's not BSing. He's getting this team to a point where they can start meshing together, going through these OTAs, the mini camps, free agency is about to open. They're going to be discussing the draft. So I love a guy who's showing persistence up front and pretty quickly. He didn't give a direct answer to rebuilding. He just said that, you know, we have a great chance to compete in the NFC South while building the team up. And, you know, first day on the job when the opening presser was, I think you kind of want to steer away from talking about, you know, the burning questions of rebuilding and the salary cap. Like, yes, obviously those are the elephants in the room, but this guy only came here to play in a Super Bowl. This guy was only here in week 3 when they beat us and Saquon went off for 180. He's only been here a couple of times, but the couple of times he was here, the couple of times or the few times rather that he interviewed, he loved it. So maybe he doesn't know if the Saints internally, Mickey Loomis, Gail Benson gave him the blessing, but is Mick really going to get out of the way and allow Kellen to really initiate a rebuild? And that is possibly why he gave that answer, because we don't know if him and Mickey Loomis have actually had that talk about rebuilding the franchise. Everybody in the fan base knows that it needs to be done that way. But does Mickey Loomis and Will Kellen Moore fall in line with that? He said he thinks it's a great opportunity, and that shows he likes adversity. He really wants to build this up. He could have easily went to, he could have stayed with the Eagles and ran it back like Nick Sirianni asked him to on national TV after they won the Super Bowl. He could have went to other places like maybe the Chiefs and taken Matt Nagy's job. He could have, if Joe Brady would have got out of town, or maybe if Cliff Kingsbury would have moved on, like he could have went to those places. But no, he chose the very last place that needed to hire a head coach in the NFL. And that clearly shows that he likes adversity. He wants to thrive in the face of adversity. He continuously stated tremendous leadership and how special New Orleans was. He wants to be here big time. That really shows there. He wants to be a physical football team. Everybody would love to be a physical football team, no question about it. I think the Saints could be a lot more physical in the trenches as well, and with the run game. To know that he coached up some solid running backs in his time, especially being fresh off of Saquon Barkley. Now, no, Alvin Kamara, or heaven forbid we draft Ashton Jeanty or Kendre Miller comes around, I don't believe we will get that exact type of production, because you're talking about a 2,000-yard rusher that got MVP votes and won Offensive Player of the Year and could have won Super Bowl MVP had he not been shut down by the Chiefs. So I would love to see us be a more physical football team as well. And if that really alludes to the trenches and the run game being great, utilizing an aggressive player like, Alontae Taylor to blitz, hopefully getting a good defensive tackle or edge in there in the draft to really spearhead the fact that Cameron Jordan is getting older, which I love. He said he's not requesting a trade anywhere. He's going to be a black and gold for life. I knew that, Cam. You've always given me that vibe. The remarks about the Saints offense, he said, they have tremendous investments on the offensive line, which is true, all things considered. Trevor Penning, McCoy, trying to think of a couple other. The Saints over the last couple of years have really invested in that offensive line, and he sees that. He loves the playmakers on both sides of the ball. He really wants to stress the defense. And when you look at Kellen Moore, I think was top 10 in neutral rate, top 10 in EPA per play, top 10 in yards per play, top 10 in play action, top 10 in motion rate. Like, he gets creative with his offenses, and all of that will stress the defense. And we do have playmakers on both sides of the ball, whether you want to admit it or not. If we can get a Shaheed, if we can get an Olave back, if we can get a Kendre Miller possibly healthy to complement an Alvin Kamara and maybe bring in an Ashton Jeanty, which seems to be more of a burning name in this draft as time goes on. Alontae Taylor can definitely make plays. We've got Carl Granderson who's able to make plays, Brian Bresee who's able to make plays. So he's not lying about that there. We just don't have all the talent that us as the fans, and really I think as much as the front office knows, that we really need. He said he's going to utilize the entire roster and the depth of the players to get the best out of everyone, really channeling what he said in the first comment about getting the best out of the best environment for players, coaches, and staff. He's excited to lead this team and support them. His dad was a head coach in high school. His brother is the Mizzou offensive coordinator. He said he was sold on the team from the jump. He quickly saw how special it was. He hoped and dreamed to be here. That is music to New Orleans Saints fans' ears. That is playing the sweetest tune possible down in the bayou for these diehard black and gold fans. He specifically commended Alvin Kamara and Taysom Hill, and when you go back to his comments about stressing the defense, you gotta love what he brought forward there. His first visit as a player in the NFL in 2010 was to the New Orleans Saints, so he already was kind of able to get that culture, see Sean Payton, see Drew Brees. We're fresh off the Super Bowl win. Like, he understood, if anything, him visiting at that time, he more than likely wants to be able to bring that type of regime back around. Clearly, every head coach wants to win the Super Bowl. No, it's not going to be the Payton and Brees era, but he was able to see, and especially just coming from a Super Bowl winning culture in Philadelphia, who now has 2 in the last 8 years, been to 3 Super Bowls in the last 8 years. He understands what's on the line. He will call plays, obviously. He likes our facilities. He likes the Dome a lot. I love that there was only 2 questions about the past of Sean Payton and Drew Brees. It shows that he really does not have to live in their shadow, which is the biggest thing we wanted. Young guy, offensive-minded, experienced, and outside of the building. Check, 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 check with Kellen Moore. He constantly stressed getting to know everyone for who they are, utilizing their superpowers, and going through the process to really understand what these players can do for him, how he can insert his explosive offenses into the New Orleans Saints franchise, and really just kind of pick up where he left off with Philadelphia. And even when he was great in Dallas before Dak got hurt, and then he dealt with an injured Chargers quarterback in Justin Herbert, to where Easton Stick had to take over in his offensive scheme. He was asked about Dan Campbell's bold personality and just the pressure of saying the right thing at the opening presser. And he said he wants to be himself. He wants people to value authenticity. He knows that people value authenticity. A lot of y'all thought that I was kind of throwing a stray at Dan Campbell when I said the fake Dan Campbell energy. Dan Campbell's energy wasn't fake, because we see that that's Dan day in and day out. And I love Dan Campbell. He's one of my favorite coaches in the league. I really appreciate his authentic and just human-like personality on the sidelines. I feel like he's one of the few coaches that, keeps the jargon out of, the podium talk, and just really speaks directly to the fans and directly to the public about that. I was saying when I said fake Dan Campbell hype, I was saying that Kellen Moore did not try to be fake and have that Dan Campbell hype. Wanted to clarify my comments there. And lastly, he didn't come out and mention, like Brian Schottenheimer, we're going to go all in. We're going to win the Super Bowl. He was very realistic. He understands that this is going to be a process from start to finish. He knows that there's tons of work to do, which he's already started chipping away at. And again, there was no fake hype. There was no delusional statements. He said it was going to be a process. He said that he loved to be here. And he said that he is going to stress the defense, utilize our playmakers, and get the best out of everybody. So I really thought, all things considered, like, what more could you have asked for, honestly, from Kellen Moore? I mean, genuinely, what more could you have asked for from him, considering the situation that he's in? I don't think you could have. One of the most interesting and sought-after players in the NFL could possibly be looking for a new job soon, as the New Orleans Saints are reportedly moving on from Taysom Hill. And initial reactions to this as a fan, it sucks. It really does, because we know that Taysom Hill has been that Swiss Army knife, has been that joker that a lot of people like to talk about in the league when it comes to the offense. And Sean Payton, plucking him from the Green Bay Packers special teams unit, having Taysom play on special teams for a little bit. I think he even ran a kickoff back, and then putting him into the system, having him play quarterback for a couple games while Drew Brees was out, having him, take QB powers and QB sweeps around the edge and through some of the gaps in the O-line, having him play tight end, having him play fullback. Taysom Hill has almost made positionless football a thing because of his talents that he's been able to have. But in the same breath, when New Orleans Saints fans talk about getting out of the Sean Payton era, getting out of the Drew Brees era, I know that Kellen Moore would like to utilize a guy like Taysom Hill, because, again, he's one of the most interesting and will be a sought-after player. Clearly, we already know that the Denver Broncos want to sign him, because Sean Payton loves building those lasting relationships. But he might not see Taysom Hill as a point in his offense. I mean, this is a fresh scrape. This is a completely new regime, new head coach, new OC, new DC, new director of sports science, who's hopefully going to keep us healthier. TJ Paganetti comes over. We've got some guys, again, Kyle Wilbur. We've got new, fresh faces coming in. We just hired Terry Joseph, who was the Texas defensive backs coach, which I think is going to be a great hire there as well. And when you talk about him coming off of a major injury at an old age, it's tough to see. Taysom Hill is 34 years old. He's going to turn 35 on August 23rd. And, when you tear an ACL in your mid-30s with as physical as Taysom is, I mean, he's banging into players, banging off players, play in and play out. So if you believe that Taysom can come back and be at least 75 to 85% of what he was, which Taysom doesn't seem like he can be a 75 to 85% player. It seems like he's 110% every snap. Are you confident that he's able to deliver that in your offense? Because the cap savings of, if the Saints do, decide to move off of him, I had the numbers right here. Let me see. Hold on real quick. Taysom Hill cut numbers. I guess that would be the best way to Google it. Yeah. Okay. So the cap savings for cutting Taysom Hill from the Saints in 2025 would obviously depend on when the cut is made. If it's a pre-June 1 cut, the Saints would only save about $500,000 in cap space. But if they cut him post-June 1, or, I guess if they could trade him, which he is on a very weird contract at the moment, he is on a 4-year, $40 million contract that he did sign back in 2021. It was weird that Sean Payton kind of signed him to a big quarterback contract at the time, but I think they were just kind of trying to move money around. And excuse me, not that Sean Payton, signed him to that, but you guys understand what I'm saying. And of course, the Saints are expected to part ways with Taysom, like I said, in 2025 to free up that salary cap space. He just doesn't meet the contractual and financial needs that the Saints are, they've been looking at it for years. They've been buying on credit for years, and you've been kicking that can down the road. And now you understand that the bill is due, and Taysom Hill is older, and he is kind of expensive for his position, and he has torn an ACL. I would hate to see Taysom go, because it's like Taysom Hill has really embodied the character of the New Orleans Saints. And Sean Payton immediately found a spot for him. I mean, pulling a guy off special teams to come in and be a problem, a rushing problem, a tight end receiving problem. I'm not saying a threat, but he was a problem because you never knew what he was going to do. The trickery was kind of unlimited with Taysom, because he could even get out there, and spin it in a really well way. And fans like that. The good thing about the Saints is they play in the Cupcake division. It's up for grabs this year. Yeah, no doubt about it. But as long as Mickey Loomis is still with us, man, it makes me nervous as hell to really see what's going to happen. And I don't even know if the Saints could replace Taysom Hill. I really don't, because again, like, unless you go and get one of these two-way players that's in the NFL right now, and no, I'm not or in college right now. No, I'm not talking about a Travis Hunter, because he's either a receiver or a DB. There's another gentleman, I can't remember his name or the school that he's at, but people have kind of been comparing him to Taysom Hill as well. I think the only viable replacement for Taysom Hill would be a Deebo Samuel, because he can be a receiving threat and he can be a running back threat as well. End arounds. Now, he's not going to take the snap as a quarterback. He's not going to run a route off of a tight end, hand in the dirt. So as I begin to explain that, I don't think the Saints could replace Taysom Hill, but replacing the horrendous offensive calling that was present over the last couple of years between Pete Carmichael, Clint Kubiak really didn't get a fair roll at it at all. Now he's with the Seattle Seahawks. This is just going to be a new design of the New Orleans Saints offensive scheme, to where Taysom Hill is more than likely not going to be a part of it. It's going to suck. It's going to sting. It's going to hurt, but it doesn't mean that the Saints can't move on to bigger and better things here. Some of the Saints' new hires in the NFL after they bring in Kellen Moore as the head coach. Eagles quarterbacks coach Doug Nussmeier is now hired as the offensive coordinator. Maybe my favorite hire out of it all is Brandon Staley being the defensive coordinator for us as well. We saw his great time, with the defensive numbers before it got bad in LA. We saw his solid time with, the Niners when he was just with them last season. We, of course, know what he was as the Rams defensive coordinator as well, before he was able to go and take over the head coaching position for 3 years with the Chargers. Like I said, assistant head coach last year for, assistant head coach last year for the Niners. And, obviously the Niners didn't have a very solid season, but Brandon Staley is a respected guy in this league. And, when you look at what the Rams were in the year that they won the Super Bowl with Brandon Staley as their defensive coordinator, it was absolutely special. You saw what the Chargers were kind of able to be with Brandon Staley again before it got bad. And I think the Raiders hung 60 plus. It was 63, 65 points. You cannot let a division rival embarrass you like that on national television. That's exactly why he lost his job. We do hire Ted Rath, who was the former director of sports science. If I just want to make sure I have his title correct, because it was one title with the Eagles, but now he's going to be really another title here with the New Orleans Saints. He was the director of sports performance from 2020 to 2023 with the Eagles. He was let go before the 2024 year. And he's been a strength and conditioning coach in the NFL since 09 to 15 with the Lions. He was assistant strength and conditioning. 2016, he was the same position with the Dolphins. 17, 18, and 19 with the Rams. He was the director of strength training and performance in 18 and 19. And in 2017, strength and conditioning coach. Like I said, director of sports performance in 20, 21, 22, and 23. So 4 seasons with the Eagles that he had that position. And now he is the director of sports science with the New Orleans Saints. The Saints were one of, if not the most injured team last year. Everybody wanted to talk about all the players on IR that the Lions had. That's how I know that nobody was watching the games for the Saints last year, because they were one of the most injured teams that I've seen in my years of watching football, probably up there in NFL history. I mean, we were literally fielding a practice squad roster for a good bit of the NFL season, and I hated to see that. And I was really starting to question Oshner health. Can't believe the Saints just signed a decade extension with them. Nick Underhill tweets me on Twitter, and he's like, "Hey, a lot of these guys go outside the building to seek treatment." That's a problem. That right there is the problem. They don't want to be around this health staff. And I said it needs to be looked at. After we were really injured a couple years ago, I said, what the hell is going on with the strength and conditioning of the Saints? Because it just wasn't acceptable. This guy has won strength and conditioning coach of the year twice in his NFL career since 2009. I love this hire. It's one of my favorite ones next to Brandon Staley. TJ Pagnetti, Pagnetti, I think, who was the run game specialist and assistant O-line coach. He hasn't specifically been named yet for a staff position by the Saints. But again, when you're able to bring in a gentleman who was helping assist in the run game with Saquon Barkley and helping assist in the offensive line, y'all wanted to get all over me on TikTok and say that, this wasn't correct. You're reaching XYZ. The Saints don't have the players. I know that. I 100% know that. It doesn't mean that us pulling staffers from a Super Bowl winning team who just had one of the best Super Bowl runs of all time doesn't mean that I can't get excited about it. I'd rather pull staffers from the Super Bowl winner than from the team who might have a top 10 pick in the draft. And I know you guys would say the same. So back up a little bit. Let's take a breath. He was the run game specialist and the assistant O-line coach. What were the Eagles really good at doing this year? Running the ball, standing up in the trenches to help Jalen get time. So I'm going to be excited about that. Kyle Wilbur was named as the assistant special teams coordinator. He was the Green Bay special teams quality control coach for the last 2 seasons as well. Obviously we have Darren Rizzi getting out of town. We'll be talking about that in just a second. I want to see who is the Saints special teams coordinator now. Oh, well, it technically still is. It looks like they actually already got him. Did they get him? Did the Broncos already hire Darren Rizzi? I think they did. Didn't they already finalize it? Yep, they already finalized it. They did. Yep, they did. I think I saw that news break a couple days ago. Sean Payton waiting out Darren Rizzi to be the Broncos ST coordinator. He was a very serious candidate in New Orleans. I think he'll be a head coach in this league. He probably will. So, now we're going to have another special teams coordinator be able to jump in there. But Kyle Wilbur being with the Green Bay Packers the last couple of seasons, I know Green Bay special teams haven't been that great. And I know that just from talking with some Packers fans and knowing how they personally feel about it. But I'll take the staffer. I'll take the hire. And then Texas DB coach Terry Joseph as the defensive pass game coordinator. I think that's a very solid hire. He actually was able to coach up Jahdae Barron, who won the Jim Thorpe Award in college football, which is the best cornerback award, for the season. So I think that's great, considering that we do have some young guys like an Alontae Taylor. If we're able to get a Paulson Adebo back, if we're able to get some more young talent in that secondary, I think it could be great. I am very appreciative of the fact that we did get Terry Joseph, the cousin of Vance Joseph, who is the defensive coordinator. Vance Joseph is the DC for the Denver Broncos. And, anytime you can get a Joseph in the league that has, been able to coach at a decent level. Now, he has no NFL experience, and there's really no ties to him and Kellen Moore in that aspect. Really no ties to anybody on the staff that he's coached with in the past. You see the ties with Brandon Staley to Kellen Moore when Brandon Staley was the head coach of the Chargers. Kellen Moore was his offensive coordinator. Obviously, Ted Rath, comes over from the Eagles. Didn't work exactly with Kellen Moore, but he was aware that he was, and maybe Kellen didn't make the hire, but he was aware that he was with the Eagles when they were a healthy team. Doug Nussmeier, who was a quarterback's coach, he brings him in as the offensive coordinator. Of course, TJ Pagnetti as well. So there is no exact relationship with Terry Joseph to the staffers, but I like it, all things considered. Before we get out of here of episode 95 of the NFL with AJL, yes, it was official that the Broncos hired Darren Rizzi as their special teams coordinator. Yet another Sean Payton poaching classic. I mean, you guys saw me make the video. I know Sean Payton doesn't hate us at a team, but it's pretty damn annoying to watch him do this every other week, it feels like. I mean, and I get it, right? Kellen Moore's doing the same thing. Not players, but staffers. Staffers change positions a good bit. And so do players as well, right? We know that the average NFL lifespan for a career is like 4 years, if that. And if you're with a team for like longer than 5, 6 seasons and you sign a second contract with the team, maybe they didn't draft you, but if they drafted you, or if you sign a second contract with them in general after joining them from a prior team, like that is special to happen. And it really is kind of rare in the league when you think about it in the grand scheme of things. But I just hate to see Sean Payton yet again be smart and utilize his relationships and pull Darren Rizzi over as a special teams coordinator. And I really wish we could have retained Darren Rizzi. I really do. He's great at what he does. I love his energy. Energy was very big time. I mean, when he was at the podium, talking about what he was going to do with Dennis Allen being fired and his post-game pressers when he, was taking the blame for the Saints not winning. I mean, he led us to the only back-to-back wins of the season after week 1 and week 2, which was just absolutely horrible to see. But he was part of that Sean Payton regime, so the Saints and Kellen Moore really did just want a fresh start. And, Darren Rizzi wasn't probably going to take a demotion after going from special teams coordinator and assistant head coach, now being interim head coach. And, it's weird because I don't understand why certain staffers wouldn't take a demotion back to a role if you're just going to go take the same role with another team. Whatever. I don't know. Clearly he has a relationship with Sean Payton. I get that. But, the big thing is like Darren Rizzi knew what this franchise was in the midst of. Darren Rizzi knew what this franchise was in the midst of, and he could have been a voice of reasoning in that locker room. I think that's the big part that I'm going to miss from him is the voodoo on the kickers that weren't able to hit kicks when Darren Rizzi was interim head coach, his voice in the locker room, his overall energy. I mean, when Dennis Allen was apologizing to Arthur Smith, he should have been fired then after the Saints put up 50 plus on the Falcons and Arthur Smith got fired. When Dennis Allen apologized after Arthur Smith said that was bullshit for Jameis Winston going rogue and scoring a touchdown because they collectively decided to as a team. When Dennis Allen went to apologize, Darren Rizzi was ready for the smoke. He was ready for it. He was there to back up his coach. He was there in the moment. And I'm not looking for guys to fight. I'm not looking for guys to, I'll definitely like him talking shit. No doubt about that. I mean, that's what the NFL is largely built off of. When we see guys like Darrelle Revis and Chad Johnson and Richard Sherman and Jalen Ramsey, like the trash talkers are some of the best parts of the league. And I feel like Darren Rizzi really had a favorable role in that. So yes, the Broncos do hire Darren Rizzi as their special teams coordinator. Again, I hate to see it happen, but that is the NFL. And those are the things that are going to happen in this league when you've got good guys. You've got good guys. They're sought after. If you think they're good, there's a chance that 5 to 10 other NFL teams would probably like to take advantage of their services as well. That was episode 95 of the NFL with AJL. I greatly appreciate everybody for jumping into the show tonight. I know we've been on a little bit of a 2-week hiatus, but y'all see me pumping out that short form content. We got a YouTube short with 32,000 spins. We got 2 TikToks with over 11,000 plays. We got another YouTube short with about 21,000 spins. We've got more Would You Rather content coming out. Y'all make sure to like and share that stream wherever you may be watching. Subscribe on YouTube. Hit the bell so you never miss any type of post. The QR code in the corner of the screen is every bit of social media and podcast content at NFL with AJL. I did drop the on the NFL with AJL. I'm just trying to, if I can make the first word NFL, I feel like it'll just pull a lot more people looking for the NFL social media, especially YouTube, that are, really search engine ways to find your content. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Y'all get in the comments in the chat. Let me know what you thought of the show. Drop some comments down below. I've actually got a YouTube short that I'm planning on putting out talking about Jalen Hurts being compared to NFL legends for his first 4 seasons. A guy jumped into the comments, asked me to do a breakdown on that, and so I'll happily do it. Again, this was episode 95 of NFL with AJL. Love you guys. Need you guys. Hope you enjoyed JV on the show because he's not going anywhere, and we will see you.